Okay, it looks as if we're close to getting the start of this race. What's the news, Alberto? We are live.
Yeah, it seems so.
Okay.
I've talked just with Richard and Jonathan. Everything is fixed. The grid is loaded, and let's hope that everything works now.
Well, if the flag rules are turned off, I would think that we would not have a problem with anybody being disqualified. Watch, now I'll be proved wrong. Uh, so cars are now forming up on the grid, and yes, indeed, we do have the grid lining up the way it's supposed to. So we thank
Okay.
everybody uh, for your patience in getting this one underway. So Grant had better get to the grid here if he wants to join it for the race. And this is kind of odd that he's still in the garage. This is the case before. He's still in the garage. We're looking at the grid now, and Richard Wilkes'
Now,
Lotus is there. So we're going to have a formation lap followed by the actual start. Interesting the way the cars are gridded here. They're 3-2, 3-2, I believe. There he is. He's now in the grid. So the cars will peel away for their... yeah, here we go off now on the parade lap. So I'm going to go through the grid now. Starting first, another pole for Grant Riddall in the Team Surtees TS9. Starting second, Richard Wilkes in the Lotus number 2, I believe, or is it 3? No, he's driving number 3,
yes, he's
Fittipaldi.
Brian Weisel.
Yeah, Vinar Wiesel. And this is nice to see Richard up front here. He doesn't normally, or he's had some bad luck in this series, so hopefully he can have some good luck here. Starting third, Mikael Janik and the upgraded Scuderia Ferrari. Starting fourth is Pascal Mikola, driving the third Lotus in this race. Second to the Lotus 72. Starting fifth is Richard Coxon, Team Surtees. Your hard-working series admin who's having to, do a lot of work to make sure this one gets underway, but we're really grateful for his organizational efforts. Starting sixth is Yves Placé in the first of the Matras. Seventh is Ray Riddall in the first of the BRMs. Eighth, there's Brian Janik, the Detroiter, driving Graham Hill's Brabham. Ninth is Steve Parker, another BRM. 10th is Thiago Canola, who's having a guest drive here in a March. 11th is Austin Johnson in the Hane Curie Arnold March. 12th, Peter Hlavik in the first of the McLarens. 13th is Jakob Fredriksson in the Ronnie Peterson March Engineering car.
What's up with Martin Lacina? He's out of the track. He has spun during the warm-up lap.
He has. Lacina has spun, and we can hear his engine running, but apparently he's sitting still. That's odd. I'm not sure what's going on there. In any case, 15th is Gerard Rion in a Ferrari. 16th is Jari Brupacher in another Ferrari. 17th, David Saber in the Matra. 18th, David Yunt driving his Joe Seifert Automobiles March. 19th, David Jakes. 20th, Juha Boss in the Turbine. 21st, Jonathan Asserklint in the first of the Tyrrells. Peter Blom in a Team Surtees third entry. 23rd is Timo Vermeersch. 24th, Francois Remen. 25th, Jason Fitch. 26th, Mark Florkin. 27th, Adam Hackman. And starting last is, okay, this is interesting because, starting
Yeah,
last
Martin will be starting from the pits, it seems.
Okay, so we do have 28 cars, and that is the limit for this race. So we're now standing by for the start of the Dutch Grand Prix. Yes, there is Martin. You can see him there. He's in the garage, so he's going to be starting last effectively from the pit lane. Yeah, there he is. But he's going to have to be very careful to not exit before the green light comes on for him. And the race is underway. Lots of smoke. Look at Richard Wilkes. He's taken the lead, and my goodness, Grant Riddall has dropped back to third place. He's just a little bit ahead there of Pascal Mikola. That is an incredible, incredible development as they head through Tarzan and now on the backside of the course where there's a small hairpin here. Richard Wilkes leads. Coxon is in second. Grant Riddall is in third place. Now they head through the sand dune section. Yeah, I agree with you, Alberto. Very green, considering that these are sand dunes.
And Martin Lacina has finally started from the pits. It seems that the red light stood there. So he finally jumped the red light. There are no rules, so there should be no problem for him.
Well, he's on his way.
But he's very, very much in the rear. There's a big gap to the last car. So, well, we know he's one of the quickest drivers, so I guess he will be very quickly finding the back of the grid. But it's very sad because it's depriving him of a good result with the head start that everybody got already.
So Richard Wilkes in his Lotus comes around and he's leading the race. This is really the first competitive situation he's been in these cars since Kyalami at the start of the season. Coxon, though, is sizing him up as they come up to... oh, actually, he's also getting a challenge here from Grant on the outside. Grant tries an outside pass into Tarzan, but it doesn't quite work. I'm not sure that that's something that will work in Tarzan, even though it's a banked corner. Oh, my goodness! Grant's being very optimistic coming into some of these corners, running right up on the back wing of Wilkes. I mean, it's a 70-lap race.
Richard Wilkes was protecting the inside of the turn, and Richard Coxon was right behind him, so Grant had no option except to try something on the exterior. I don't think he believed he could pass there, but he probably thought that if there was some kind of incident or touch between Richard Coxon and Wilkes, he could capitalize from that, and he better not be in the way.
Yeah, he's going to have to be very, very, very careful because I mean, again, this is a 70-lap race, lots of racing to do, and very early to be trying daredevil moves.
Yeah, Brian Janik is also trying there on the third Lotus. Sorry, that's Pascal Mikula, and Austin Johnson is not exactly patiently waiting behind him. He's now trying to pass
there you see him in the silver March. He's alongside of Brian Janik right now. My goodness, lots of scraps going on here, and
and the Matra coming very close there with a powerful V12 engine.
Austin Johnson on the inside there gets by Janik. Yeah, this is Austin's first drive in this car as a full-time drive. Previously at Monaco, he was driving a March 711 and made an excellent run, finished second at Monaco, which is no small feat, in a race that actually didn't see.
And Mark Florking is on the side of the track. He seems to have crashed and now has quit.
Yeah, he's out of the race
also,
now.
I believe it's a...
No,
yeah, Philippe Martinelli also quit.
Well, Francois Remen is also out of the race, so we've got... It appears we have 3 retirements now. Florkin Mark Florkin, Philippe Martinelli, and Francois Remen. So it's difficult to tell whether that had anything to do with technical issues or if it was an actual race. But here we are back at the front again, and you see Lotus leading, 2 Surtees in second. Here comes the next group of Lotus leading. This is going to be interesting because
that was certainly not a nice maneuver.
No, Grant and Richard's not happy. He's forcing his way back through. My goodness, this is really, really tense stuff at the front here. Good show. And Coxon, I think, is content to just sit there in third place and watch this unfold. He's watching points. Would you agree?
He certainly is.
Yeah, I mean, there's no advantage to him getting ahead of his teammate because then he'll just be stuck in a sandwich between these two, which would be an infinitely more difficult situation without much reward at this point.
Smoke there behind.
God, these
coming along. Yeah, it's a braking for one of the turns, but there's also some fights up there.
God, these guys are having a real...
Steve Parker, they're coming on the inside. And overtaking Jason Fitch. Jonathan Clint is right behind Fitch now, also trying to make his move.
Meanwhile, Mikkola seems to have solidified.
Martin Lacina also dispensed with Alan Hackman. So let's see, they're coming out again. Exterior of the turn. Let's see what happens now.
No, he's this time. Wilkes has got a pretty good handle on things. Not nearly as close as previously. Meanwhile, Mikkel has solidified his fourth place pretty well, and he's people are more concerned behind him with the charging Austin Johnson. So maybe they'll give Mikkel a bit of breathing room. He does have Brian Janik behind him, who probably has in his memory being, as you so. I forget who said it. It might have been you, it might have been somebody else. But he had been Mikkelized,
Yeah.
which I thought was fantastic. But in any case, yeah, it does appear that Janik is closing in on Pascal. But of course, through these sections here, where it's very hilly and they're quick turns, it's hard to really gain much of an advantage. You're kind of stuck behind the guy. And you
Yeah,
really,
it's like we said, it's a flow. It's a track that has a very quick flow. It's beautiful, so to speak, but it's very hard to try to overtake here.
and if you're off on your apex, you pay a very, very heavy price. Here comes, okay, we're back at the front now, and there's Grant trying again an outside pass. I mean, he's able to maintain speed out there, but it really doesn't I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to get himself in a position where in the following turns he can get alongside.
I think what he tried on the straight was actually to make Richard Wilkes, to force him into making two movements, because that's actually forgiven. I mean, you can change lanes once, but not twice.
Yeah.
And probably what Grant was trying to do is confuse Richard about where he was going to try to overtake, so that Richard could not protect at least one side of the track, the one that he was intending to use.
So trying to deal him a dummy, is that what you're saying?
Yes. But it didn't work. Richard Wilkes is very much able to drive with an eye on the mirror, and he managed the situation very well. And Grant wasn't as aggressive as on the first laps here. He didn't push so much on the exterior once he saw that Richard Wilkes certainly was not going to let him by that easily. And Grant is, of course, even if he is such an aggressive and competitive driver, calculating for the championship, because he has there the lead, as you explained it at the beginning of the race. And Richard Coxon instead, because he missed one of the races, is a bit behind it, not certainly... there!
Whoa. Wilkes came into that corner very, very hot. God, it's amazing to me that Grant didn't immediately capitalize on that. He's trying.
Look how he protects the inside now, Richard
Yes.
Wilkes. Now he would be drifting to the outside. There you go. So as to deny there the clean exit to Grant also.
And these three have just
and
absolutely
to save the
romped
situation.
away from the rest of the field. There's a massive gap back to Mikkola of 11 seconds from this group. But Grant is now as close as he's ever been to, clipping the grass there. But he's extremely close to Wilkes right now, really worrying him. You got to wonder how long they can keep up with this, because this is really harrowing stuff, especially with a track that has almost zero margin for error.
Yeah, because like we said, there is a bit of runoff area, but the problem is that once you get in the grass, you are sliding with no
Exactly.
control. You may end up anywhere.
All right.
And this time Grant is very close. Let's see what happens now on the straight.
We're on board with Grant now. He's coming. Richard
Wilkes
is protecting
also
the
trying to
inside.
pull
Grant is on
him.
the outside. Oh, man. Oh!
Uh-oh,
Looked like
that wasn't really nice from Richard. Probably he was returning the favor from the previous laps.
God, I mean, this is...
A
Well,
bit more of a cool head would be required here.
yeah, these guys have got to... Coxon should have some popcorn back there watching this, going, man, boy, that looks dangerous. I wouldn't try that in my car. The other thing, as I'm seeing Grant's tires light up there, is tire wear we also have to consider here. I mean, if they're fighting this hard at the front this early, you got to wonder about tire health. Ooh, Grant has to really correct there going into the tunnel. Oost. You could see it on the screen that he was having to apply opposite lock just to keep the car pointing the way he wanted it to go.
And now it seems that Richard has bought himself some breathing room.
A little bit. Yeah, he
I
has.
wonder if any of the cars is damaged at this point.
Well, we can only speculate.
Probably, of course, not too hard, but it would amaze me very much if they don't have some kind of small damage there. And that locking wheels is also not going to help a lot, because in Automobilista, the flat spots are accurately simulated, so it could happen that Richard Wilkes is going to be running with a serious vibration on his steering wheel.
All right, so we're waiting for fourth place to come through here, just to give you an idea of the gap. It is just eons until we see, oh goodness, yes, it appears that Yves Placé has gotten ahead of Pascal Mikola, but you can see right there, oh, there's the turbine coming through, but it's just a gaggle of cars once you get back to fourth place. They're all just bottling up. Well, I don't know if I would say bottling up, because that implies that Yves Placé is holding this train up. I don't think that's the case at all. I just think that the racing's been so fast and furious with the top three that they've just managed to check out. But here we have Placé coming through.
And Janak is now on 7th position. He has been steadily falling back, which is a bit surprising, because I would have expected him to be able to keep the pace. But then again, remember, the Ferrari has to load much more fuel than the other cars because of the engine that is much heavier on fuel. So it might very well happen that he's quick on qualifying, but then he is running with a kind of sandbag.
Perhaps.
In his car.
So now Grant Riddall is closed up a bit more on Wilkes.
There's a yellow flag somewhere in the track.
Yeah, there's a yellow flag that's recurring. Yeah, Grant's tucked up right behind him now. You can see him through that characteristic blue windscreen on the Surtees. And he's having to put in a lot of compliance in his wheel just to keep the car from getting out of control in some of these faster sections.
He must have also a big deal of aerodynamic on the steer being so close.
That's another thing too. Yeah, his front wings being that close to Richard Wilkes would definitely be spoiled going through turns like this one, where the speed is very high and he needs that downforce. I mean, he's obviously going to have the downforce in the back, but his front end's going to want to push out towards the grass.
He fell back obviously in the change of direction in the S's. Because exactly of the situation, I mean, he can somehow compensate going more to the inside of the turn for the situation where you are cornering steadily, but once you have to switch direction quickly, there simply isn't the grip anymore.
So, going back to fourth place now, Yves Placé has pretty much solidified his fourth place. Then we have Mikola, who was, oh goodness, just got hit by Brian Janik up the rear end. I'm quite sure that was not intentional on Janik's part, because it might have been just a situation of misjudging the braking there, but there was clearly a hit there. And now Janik has fallen back a little bit, and Mikael Janik is closing in on him.
And Grant Riddall is back at it, trying to put the nose of his car in front, at least to the side of the Lotus. He's falling back as soon as they exit the corner because of that understeer that it's suffering. But this is certainly... Oh, he's in the grass now. No, he recovered. But this is certainly not going to be a comfortable situation at all for Richard Wilkes. 10 laps have gone by the way, which is probably quicker than we have seen in previous races because of all the action that has been going on.
And we have, I'm looking now on our YouTube channel, we have 17 people watching. That's really great considering the delay that we had. Thank you everyone for sticking with us. And we hope you're enjoying the action here. We certainly are. Another successful defensive maneuver by Wilkes there. It also can be said that this track, in addition to being one that requires great precision and is very high speed, it's also surprisingly narrow. And that probably lends, I mean, not only the speed of the track and the hilly nature of it, but the fact that it's a narrow track. I mean, that just, all of those things really combine together to form a one-groove racetrack in a lot of places. your best bets to overtake are at the end of that long straight, and maybe setting up something going into the second hairpin at the back. But I think a lot of what we're going to see here is people taking advantage of other people's problems during the race. That's probably where most of the overtaking is going to happen, I would think. That's my personal opinion. What do you think?
It should be always at the end of the straight. The problem there is that even if it's a long straight, you actually need a good run off the last corner, and that's a corner where you really need a lot of aerodynamic support, and you can't get there if you're too close to a car, so it's a bit of a catch-22 thing. But for cars, for example, with a very powerful engine, as are the Matra or the Ferrari, then of course that straight is a blessing.
See, on the corner just before the second hairpin there, Grant did have the momentum to pull alongside, and unfortunately the second hairpin doesn't have near the banking that the first one, the Tarzan one, does. So you can't really swing around there like you would on the Tarzan curve on the outside and still make it stick.
I believe that Grant at this point has realized that he has made no friends with Richard Wilkes at all, and knows that Richard Wilkes is willing to slam the door on him. Mm-hmm. So I believe that he's trying now to be a bit more conservative and simply push him into an error, but try to do any risky maneuver.
Grant's the one that has more to lose in this situation because he's the championship leader. Wilkes is not in the championship hunt, really, largely because of the issues that he had earlier in the season. I mean, when we talk about earlier in the season, we're only on round 4. But he hasn't had the best of seasons to start with here, and he's not high up on the chart. So he's thinking more about the individual race than the overall picture that Grant is probably thinking of.
So we have already several important did not finish, like Peter Plum, David Jackson, Jakob Fredriksson.
My goodness, yeah, that's a lot of high-profile people.
A total march in the pits, and I think that's Jakob Fredriksson's Factory 1.
Yeah, that would be.
Not sure because we got all that action in the lead. We didn't catch that in camera, but something happened there, and a big accident must have happened. So Michel Denac is now also struggling for his 7th position. He has, I believe that must be Peter Lavak right behind him and Austin Johnson. And they are certainly not making his life any easy.
No, they are not. And Yannick, to your point about the extra fuel weight, it's making it hard for him to stay with Brian Janik and Pascal Mikkel, who are just ahead of him. Those two are continuing their battle, but Yannick is going to come under attack from Peter Hlavek here fairly quickly, you would think.
Yeah, and it's a bad thing about carrying that extra weight in fuel, because it's not just that your car will be handling worse, it's also that you will be having more tire degradation. But now comes the straight, and that's what the
the Ferrari just
the boxer Ferrari
rockets
is
away.
Handy.
Yep. And we can probably...
So Wilkes is out of the race. Richard Coxon in the lead. I don't know what happened.
My goodness. That's insane. Oh. Unbelievable. Is it a disco? It had to have been. I'm running it back here, and I don't...
No, I couldn't catch it in the reply.
All right. I think I might be close to what happened here. I'm running it back. He's... Something's... Yeah, I'm running it back here, but I guess it's too far back. I have no clue what happened. For all we know, he could have gone for a dune ride. Shoot.
So it's Richard Coxon in the lead now, and then followed by Grant Riddle. Yves Placé is now 3rd, and Pascal Mikula with the first Lotus now in 4th position.
Well,
that's also still holding on there with the turbine car. in no man's land.
Well,
And we'll watch for the forum for any reaction from Wilkes.
That's really a shame because clearly he was that was going to be an excellent. That was a situation where we would have had a really excellent race, and now we're. I mean, not that there's an issue with having two Surtees at the front, but a little bit of the spice has gone out of the situation. But now you can see very clearly as they're coming up to lap Jason Fitch that Grant has got dirt and grass on his right-hand side tires. He has been trying like mad to get by his teammate. Here he is. Looks like he's going to try to get by him. Coxon is taking the defensive line, similar to what Wilkes had been doing before.
User left your channel.
And that it does work to his advantage there, because taking that defensive line, even as Wilkes was able to get alongside, or I'm sorry, not Wilkes, Grant Riddall was able to get alongside, he just simply couldn't hang on to the position because he's on the wrong side of the track. So having dispensed with Fitch, they are now heading through the twisty bits of the circuit. Certainly seems that, oh, there he goes again, off onto the grass, and you can see there the AMS feature of grass pickup on the car, especially on the right-hand side tires there. So he is using every inch of track and then some to try to
User joined your channel.
Try to keep pace with. Just commenting, Alberto, on the agricultural driving that Grant is employing here. He's definitely showing off the AMS grass feature, pickup feature on the tires. And
oh, look where he's squeezing by on Richard, and now Richard. Let's see what happens if he can. If Richard can use that lap car to his advantage, but no, Grant went into the lead.
Grant's back is now into the lead as they're coming up on, I believe that's Thiago Canola. He lets them by.
No, that's Timo Vermeersch.
Oh, it's Timo Vermeersch, sorry. Timo driving the car that was driven by Austin Johnson at Monaco. So now Grant is in the lead. The question now is going to be, can Coxon keep pace with him? I think it's fair to say that Grant is driving with a little bit more reckless abandon. Well, as soon as I say that, now we have Coxon putting his tires on the grass. But this is starting to remind me of not in terms of the type of racing, but it's starting to remind me of Kyalami, because we had a Surtees demonstration there. All right, let's see if Coxon can counterattack here. He's in the slipstream, but apparently, my goodness.
There's also Pascal Mikula on Brian Janik. Now they're very close out on the main straight.
Yes,
Maybe
there
this
they
is
are.
Going to happen.
Mikula on the outside, very close to. Oh my goodness. He manages to get by. We'll see if Brian Janik can late break into the corner. No, he can't. Mikula goes up to fourth place. And Yves Placé is very securely positioned in third. He doesn't have anybody in front of him or behind him to really contest with. So
Michel Janak, meanwhile, is able still to hold back Peter Lavak and Austin Johnson, but very likely not for long, because
no, Lavak is climbing
really
all over the back
at his back door.
Yeah, Lavak is getting serenaded by that Boxer engine all around the backside of the circuit here. But as we saw earlier, as soon as oh goodness, he's getting really close here. As soon as they get on that main straight, Janik can just rocket away from him. This reminds me of some races that I used to watch on the west side of the state of Michigan at a raceway called Grattan. and you had situations where you could be up on a hill off the side of the course. And one time a car went off the track and came sliding up the hill right where we were standing, and we had to jump out of the way. All right, he's got an excellent shot here. Maybe he can late break into the. Here he's going. He's going to try it. Late breaks into Tarzan. Oh goodness! Yannick goes into the grass. I don't think he was counting on him doing that, but that Yannick loses several positions. Now he's got his teammate Gerard Rion right behind him.
Yeah, he was trying to hold one position, and look what happened. He lost 3 in a row.
All right, here's a replay of what just happened here. We're going to look at it from Mikael Yannick's point of view. He comes in, and if you look off to the right, you'll see yeah, he just got way too far to the left there and just runs clear onto the grass and lost several positions. But the nice thing about Tarzan is if you happen to go off on that corner, you're no worse for wear. You have the room to rejoin, and if you're lucky, you'll do it without hitting anything.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's got his teammate behind him, and he's got Austin Johnson in front of him. So the game has changed slightly, or the objective. But meanwhile, Mikkola has pulled away from Janik. And it looks as if, I'm not entirely sure, but no, I'm not. It's hard to tell with this. I'm looking at the front of Janik's car, and it looks as if he might have some radiator damage to the BT-34. It looks like something might be bent underneath. I can't be sure. And Yves Boisset doing what he does.
It doesn't look to me, but
I don't know. In any case, Grant Radal is now starting to pull away from Coxon. So, and I guess Richard has basically concluded, well, I can't really compete with him at this kind of breakneck level right now. So, yeah, the gap is 6 seconds. They've just lapped Jonathan Asserclinth, and yeah, goodness, that gap is increasing like crazy. So the real race to watch at this point is the race between well, it was Mikkola and Brian Janik, but it's going to be interesting now to see if Austin Johnson can climb any further up the field.
now watching Michael Janak, he has locked wheels many times, and that's what probably is hurting. We've seen that happen in other races before for him. He tends to lock the wheels a lot, and then he ends with flat spots and the car behaving horribly.
He's following.
That's also likely what happened to him now, but he has been able to get closer to Ray Riddle in the straight, thanks to the Ferrari power. So if he's able to stay there in the back section and be again close enough at the main straight, there's no doubt that he can pass him and recover his position. I mean, it was his out-of-track excursion that made the rest of the drivers, particularly Ray Riddle, overtake him, because otherwise I think that he had a quicker pace, so he should be able to regain that position.
Fastest lap of the race now, Team Surtees, Grant Radal, 1 minute 18.363. So that shows you that the laps that you see in warm-up are sometimes deceptive. Do you like the
Oh, you have just got an accident.
Oh no! Accident. The turbine. No. Where's Juha? There he is. All right. Oh yes. Juha's had some kind of an incident. He lost his front wing. See if we can go back. Yeah, he's lost a wheel. Okay, here we go. I'm going to run it back here so we can see what happened.
And wait a moment. I think that Grant. Let's see if he's out of the race. Is Grant out of the race, or is that luck just for me?
All right, here's what happened with Juha. He runs onto the sand dune, comes back onto the circuit, and loses the front end of the car, loses his right front tire out of the race.
Hang on for a moment, because it might be on my end, but I can't follow the race leaders.
All right,
Where's Grant Riddle?
Grant Riddle is being shown in the lead on my end.
Yeah, but if you switch to him on screen, I can't see him. He has disappeared from the track. Maybe that's just me.
No, it isn't just you.
Same for Richard Coxon. And is Place the only one on track? Now that he's going to the start line, let's see how the positions are updated. No. Okay, they're back now. It seems that there was some kind of lag or whatever internet gimmick, because there it is. Grant is still in the lead.
Yes, there they are.
But he's disappearing. I mean, the signal is disappearing periodically.
Well,
then with Richard Coxon.
There is something odd going on with the signal. I mean, we noticed it in qualifying, we noticed it in the race, and I would venture to say that it may be part of the blame for why we were getting DQs going to race session. That might have been a contributing factor.
And there is now Peter Lavak on the hunt for Brian Janik's position. He is unstoppable today. Same. It's reminding me of the great race he did at Montjuic.
Yeah, his Montjuic race, I think, surprised a lot of people, not in terms of his talent, obviously, but in terms of the equipment he was running. And here I don't believe he's running the latest McLaren in this situation.
No, he doesn't have the airbox, so there isn't any rammer engine for him. And whoever I'm following is disappearing from screen for me, intermittently.
Well, actually,
coming now to a lap car.
Well, Janik is actually, he's a little bit closer to Mikola than Hlavek is to him. So if there is going to be a battle, it might sooner come from these two, number 7 and number 36.
Well, Pascal has been doing 120s in the latest laps. In the case of Brian Janik, he has been doing 119s in the last 2 laps. So he's evidently being quicker. But in the case of Peter Slavak, that's also 119. So both are going to catch up with Pascal Mikula very soon.
Yeah, and then we'll have a 3-car battle for 4th place.
Not to forget Austin Johnson, who isn't too far away behind.
Yeah, he could very quickly join this fray. Yeah, his is just the lowly 701 actually.
Yo, whoa! Peter Lavag is catching up really quick with these guys.
He is, yeah. Now that situation is reversed. Now Mikkel is pulling out a bit of a gap, and it looks as if Hlavek's reeling him in. Yeah, it's the inverse of the situation we saw last lap. Have you seen any reaction on the forum regarding...
There have been some. I had not mentioned it because we were busy.
Well, one thing I would like to point out, I was looking at my race notes that Coxon prepares for me, and yes, indeed, Hlavek is now running a McLaren M19A, so he is with the latest equipment now. He was not when he was at Montjuic.
Yeah, indeed, he's in a 19 and not on a 14. Only thing is he hasn't yet the ram air induction engine.
There's a yellow flag here. Not sure why. I'm looking around to see if somebody's run off the dunes, but I can't see anybody. I heard an engine idling there.
The last one who shows the...
And we have another yellow flag. I'm not entirely sure where these yellow flags are coming from. But now Yannick looks like he's poised to potentially do an overtake here. He's definitely in the slipstream. Yeah, closing quickly. Gonna try and... No, he's too far back for an outbreak, but he's certainly lapping faster than Janik at this point. As they exit Tarzan. Is he gonna try it here? No. Yeah, it definitely looks like something's bent underneath Janek's front wing.
Yeah, there should be something in the center there, between the lobster claws, I believe.
Yeah, it looks like he's missing the front panel, and what's back there is slightly bent. That might have been from the contact he had with Mikkola earlier. Grant is still leading. And the gap between those two is essentially around 20 seconds now. Good grief. Well, hang on. I might be looking at a different. Looking at Coxon now. Yeah, he's 11 seconds behind Grant at this point, and 7 seconds in front of Yves Placé, who's in third. Brian Janek is fourth. And constantly being stalked by Peter Hlavik.
It certainly does your morale no good when you see a car coming that quick from behind, catching up with you in just 1 or 2 laps.
Well, I mean, one thing to keep in mind is that there's not a lot of, I mean, you have very few options to get by somebody here. And it's not difficult to make your car just a little bit wider and maintain a position. I was mentioning the forum before. Is there any statement from Richard Wilkes? That's the one in particular I was thinking of.
No, I was about to talk about it, but we were in the middle of an action. There's reaction from Jacob Fredriksson and Gary Brubacher, who both explained their incidents. They were in the same incident both, together with David Jacks. And what happened seems to be that Jacob Fredriksson miscalculated heading into Tarzan, and he saw a car ahead of Riddle moving lines into the braking zone and had to move on to swerve to avoid, lock it up, and ended in the crash fence. Whereas in the case of Jerry Brubacher, who seemed to be having some leg issues, he said that after a bad start he had gotten into a good battle with David Jacks, but after passing him he lost control and David Jacks collided with him. I think that maybe that's what Jacob had to avoid and what put him in the fence. So that's 3 cars at once being out of the race.
Wow. Well, that's pretty crazy that you'd have a chain reaction accident that, well, I mean, maybe not so nuts like that early in the race, but that's with people that we would expect to be very careful. But, of course, I think Jakob missed the race at one point. So it doesn't take much when you miss races before you start to lose your sense of being around other people. I think I've read that psychologically that's the first thing that leaves you. If you haven't been driving as often, as you start to lose your ability to negotiate traffic and to see yourself in place with other cars. Now Janek's got a little bit more breathing room. Put together a lap. So he's running kind of a middle line going through Tarzan there. Seems to be working for him. And Hlavik seems to be backing off just a tiny bit.
It's funny that Hlavik arrived there so quickly, but now is somehow stuck behind Janek.
Okay, this is interesting. I'm not sure how this happened, but Pascal Mikkola is down to 7th place.
Yeah, he's been for some time already. I mean, he was overtaken by Hlavik and by Janek, Hlavik, and Johnson. I think he had a track outing. He made an error. That's why.
Possibly, yeah.
Went on all of a sudden, yeah. But I mean, he has been able to put some distance between himself and Michel Janek because he was about to fall into Janek's clutches.
Well, here's an interesting battle that's going on right now between. Getting really close between Thiago Canola and Gerard Rion, I believe. Yes. This is a battle for 9th place.
With Steve Parker right behind.
And Steve Parker's not far behind, but these two, this looks like a pretty good matchup. Tiago was surprisingly close to Gerard and Tarzan, and I say surprising because that would have been just coming off that straight where you would think that Gerard would have had an excellent head of steam and pulled out a gap, but apparently that wasn't the case. Looks like he's losing ground to him now. Gerard, I don't think, is handling quite as well as he would like, especially in some of these, surprisingly, some of the faster corners. Now he's going to be rocketing away from, now he's checking out. But of course, as you mentioned, Steve Parker is having a look now. He's pulling out, going to try to outbrake, and it looks like he's got him, Tiago. He's able to make it stick. He doesn't slide up the turn, and he goes up into 10th place. Tiago drops to 11th. See if Tiago can counterattack here. Does not appear so.
That's what happens when you get a bit distracted. I mean, probably Tiago was focused on your Arion and didn't see Steve Parker coming. Oh, there was a slight error by Steve that allowed Tiago to come close again.
Oh,
But
here he
look how
comes again.
He's
He's
steered out of the corner.
certainly certainly hanging with him. But then again, that 12-cylinder power plant should keep Steve safe when they get to Tarzan, and it does.
Pascal Mikula, in turn, has been able to get in touch again with Austin Johnson, almost.
He's getting there. He's got a little ways to go yet.
Well, Peter Lavak is still stuck behind Brian Janik. I'm not sure if that's that they have had to settle into that rhythm because of tire degradation, or if Brian is acting a bit of a bottleneck for the rest of them. I don't think so, because there is quite some distance there between cars, but
I don't know. I know Brian. I doubt that he's driving in that fashion. That doesn't sound like something he would do. On the other hand, yeah, it does appear that Hlavic's like having a hard time getting around him. You're right. Maybe you're right. Tire degradation may be playing into this a little bit now. But one thing that definitely it makes me wonder about is how Janik's car is handling. Look at here we go. Pascal Mikkel now attempting to overtake Austin Johnson, gets by. Johnson drops to 7th place. And that was
I think
interesting.
Austin is a bit in the same situation as we saw Greg Wasson in Montjuic. I mean, he is a very talented driver, but then to bring that March C701 to be competitive with these cars, you have to really push it hard, and in that situation you end up eating the tires quite quickly.
Pascal's now pulling away, but Pascal had a few opposite lock moments earlier, so we'll have to see what happens. Reaction in the YouTube chat from Martin Lucina. Apparently he lost the engine.
Those Alpha engines.
Yes. And that would be, I believe, the second engine retirement for him so far this year.
And now Steve Parker has Gerard on his crosshair. Slowly getting to him.
Yeah, he's definitely got a head of steam here if he keeps it up. Yeah, he pulls out now. Cruises right by going into Tarzan. And Steve Parker is now up to 9th place. So Steve, who hasn't really had a lot of good luck in this series either. We talked about Richard Wilts' bad luck in this series, which is obviously continuing. We still have yet to know the reason why.
He's catching up with the other Ferrari very quickly.
Yes, extremely fast. He's catching up with Yannick. So Steve is definitely pining for a good result. Dropped a
Lavak has been able to overtake Brian Janik.
Yes, there he is. He's managed to get in front.
Where did that happen? Let me see.
I'm running
Looking
it
at
back
the
now.
replay on the main straight. This time he got a good exit, a good run out of the corner, and Brian was there powerless because Lava got the slipstream, got side by side with him, and Brian very cleanly just gave up the position because that's the only real option he had at that point. He didn't really try to slam the door.
So Hlavik now solidly in 4th place. Place's in 3rd. Now another thing about Place that we have to bring up, and I hate to mention it because I don't want to jinx him.
Steve Parker really pushing there, putting some pressure on Michal Janak. Sorry to interrupt
No,
you.
no, that's okay. I can bring up the point with Place later. Yeah, Steve Parker definitely is on the move here. And as you've mentioned before, it does look like Michal Janek's really punishing his tires. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Steve Parker make a move going down the main straight here on this lap and moving up into 7th there, or 8th now. Yeah, he's crawling all over the back of Janek.
Janak seems to really have problems with the brake locking because he very likely has already many flat spots there.
All right.
He was in the battle of 12-cylinder engines in the straight. This is the difference. The BRM from Steve will not be getting dropped back by the Ferrari this time.
Well, and Janek runs wide. Well, it's a moot point. But no, he's coming back on the outside. But I think Steve might finally have him going into this turn here. No, he backs off. Oh, man. Very close. I don't think Steve was expecting Janek to check up like that.
No,
and he just barely, he just barely was able to get to the outside of that turn and touch the grass a bit. But man, that was very close.
Well, if Janek gives him half the fight he gave to, was that Peter Lavak in the Jaguar race the other day, then
yeah,
Steve will certainly have something to remember later.
Yeah, he's getting a face full of smoke from Janek right now. He's locking up on almost every turn. I think you're right. He's got flat spots like crazy. But now it looks as if Gerard Rion might have a chance to counterattack here. So we have the, yeah, absolutely. Rion's got an opportunity on the plate here if he can set, Steve Parker up for the straight.
Austin
It looks
Johnson
like he has.
just got by on Brian Janek. Austin Johnson is now in 6th position.
My goodness.
Pascal Picula is in 5th, so yeah, Brian Janek has been dropping back. Probably tire degradation also.
Slight ping issue there. Yeah, it's clear to me that Steve Parker has a definite speed advantage on the straight with regard to Gerard Rion. It is definitely not the case, though, with Janek. I'm thinking that Michal Janek is running lower wings than Gerard Rion is. Oh, my goodness. Very close here. Very, very dangerous going through here. So he's just hanging right with him here, but of course can't do very much with it through this very, very fast left-right section. Then another very fast right-hander over a bridge. That one.
He's clearly getting the aerodynamic understeer there.
Yes, clearly.
Is subtracting him a lot of downforce. He can't get it close. And here's the catch-22 we were talking about before. I mean, you have to be close when exiting this corner to be able to benefit from the draft of the other car and make a movement, a move on him at the end of the straight. But if you're too close, then on that corner you lose aerodynamic downforce. So
yeah.
it's catch-22. Oh, Steve Parker.
Oh, Steve spins!
Ah, that's really unfortunate. I think he hit the wall.
No, he might have just touched the
fence?
fence for a second there.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at a replay of that from on board here. It just too much torque in that low-speed Tarzan corner, and the thing just looped. Let's take another look. He's getting a face full of smoke from Yannick. Accelerates off. That is easy to do. Now, Steve, this is an example of his maturity as a driver. He brought the car to a stop, resisted the urge to reverse back into traffic, pulled forward onto the grass, had to do a 3-point turn, but now he's back in the race, and given his he didn't likely incur any damage, and given his speed, there's nothing saying he can't be back in the top 6 at some point. But he handled that very maturely, which is it really isn't a surprise from Steve. He's a mature driver.
And two drivers who are well known to us but are having today a very discreet race are David Sauber and David Jant. Yeah, they're surprisingly no man's land in 13 and 14 position. No incidents, no drama, but unfortunately not high in the grid.
Yeah, they haven't had that. They are kind of just like languishing in the background now. In fact, Grant Riddall is coming up now to lap David Saber. But it's interesting you mentioned that the Saber's driving a Matra. One thing that I wanted to bring up was the lack of reliability of the Matra engines. Because, again, here we have Yves Placé in 3rd place, and we've seen several excellent drives from him this year get undone by this car losing its reliability towards the end of the race. It'll just explode on him. And my question is, I wonder if he's doing anything to adjust his driving to address that in this race.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see, but the trend with this car so far has been that these guys put in a great drive, and then the engine just quits on them. So we'll have to keep a close eye on Yves and see if he can bring it home. Looking at a potential, we've got 40 laps complete here, so we're past half distance.
I'm watching him from cockpit view, and he certainly is taking the engine up to the red line, not going past it, but he's hitting the red line, which for this engine is 11,500 RPM. It's a quite high revving engine, but we'll see what happens towards the end of the race. I don't see him short shifting.
Well, the order with 40 laps complete, Grant Riddall leads, Richard Coxon's second, Yves Placé, who you're watching right now, is in third, Peter Hlavik is fourth, Pascal Mikola is fifth, Austin Johnson sixth, Brian Janik seventh, Mikael Janik is eighth.
And the only other cars that are right now more or less close, with a probable battle upcoming, are Ray Riddle and Gerard Rion. Ray with the second BRM, and again a 12-cylinder battle.
Yep, there he is, getting closer to Gerard. It's interesting. I mean, I really would have. I mean, it seems that especially the Ferrari in this situation is a better car in a qualifying situation. When you get it into a race situation, maybe it's not as good as one would hope. While we have
the extra pull.
While we have a moment here, why don't we show the trivia question, and then we'll come back to close to the end of the race with the answer. The trivia question, and it's Zandvoort related, is in 1965, which team principal was arrested because he punched a policeman at Zandvoort? Was it A, Colin Chapman, B, Lewis Stanley, or C, Ron Taranak? We will return with the answer later on in the broadcast. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, just having the 12 cylinders is not all it takes. I mean, it seems it's a straight-up battle for the 12 cylinders, but there's some that I mean, in
Oh,
Gerard's
that's
case,
not
oh
in the
goodness,
grass.
there's
Austin Johnson.
Austin Johnson. Oh, shoot, sorry. Let's see if we can get a replay of what happened. Here's the replay now. Austin coming out of Tarzan. He just lost control and went up towards the fence. Luckily for him, it does not appear that he... Oh, goodness, his engine quit. His engine is smoking. So, yeah, it was an engine failure, looks like. At first I thought it was an accident, but it turns out it was an engine failure, it appears. Goodness.
Well, I was watching the replay, and neither did he hit the RPM limiter in the straight, nor did he over rev it while downshifting. So, not sure what caused that.
Yeah, that is odd. Meanwhile, it appears that Ray Radal is starting to close in again on Gerard Rion, little by little. Ooh, touches the curb there. He's got to watch out. And there's that smoke again from the octagonal tires of Michal Janek. Ray is in 8th place at the moment. Oh, he really catches up there going through the tunnel oost.
Now he's close.
Yeah, very close. And let's see, he might be able to set him up going. Yeah, he's in. Oh man, he has an excellent opportunity here because Gerard had a very loose moment.
This time he should have the slipstream.
He should.
But that straight's not going to be long enough, I'm afraid.
No, not quite.
There's also Michel Janak there in front providing the smoke screen. And I think that people at Sandworth hadn't seen so many smoke screens since the Second World War.
Yeah, Gerard seems to be faster through this section, but then once he... Oh! Gerard runs off the track! It all goes...
there.
Oh no! And he broke his wheel. He's out of the race.
The car stopped. Yeah.
Yeah, he's lost his right front. That's clearly a retirement. Let's take another look at this. As he comes through this, he comes through this right-hander, which is very fast, and just loses the back end. Tries to correct back, but he hits the fence, loses his front wing and his right front wheel. My goodness. And he backed up a little bit, but he didn't go onto the track itself. He stayed on the grass, so good for him. But he's trying to limp back to the pits, but realistically, there is no point in him continuing. And he's bringing it to a stop now. So I guess this is probably going to be a retirement now. But that's really too bad. He just got out of shape on that turn. And that was the end of the race. Yep. So perhaps mental fatigue is starting to set in here. Potentially.
Sorry?
Perhaps I was saying perhaps mental fatigue is starting to set in with some people.
Maybe so, yeah. In the case of Gerard, he was being pressed by Ray Riddle, so this is certainly not a comfortable situation. Any error when you're trying to drive in the limit to keep your position can be paid for dearly. And that's likely been the case here. So So at this point, and we are 45 laps into the race, there's 13 cars on track. No, 14, because Timo Vermeers is also there, 2 laps behind, but still in the race.
Yeah, they've been asking on the YouTube chat, are there any 7-Elevens left in the race? And the answer is yes. There's this one being driven by Thiago Canola. And he's running in 8th place. And as you mentioned, Timo Vermeers is running in 15th place currently.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually lost his front wing by the looks of things. Yes, he has. He is running without a front wing right now. So it's turned into another...
Richard Clarkson is actually closing a bit in on Grant Riddle. Gap is now 5.5 seconds, whereas it was almost 7 seconds some laps ago. It's even if Grant has been racing so quickly, the gap has never been, I think, higher than 8 to 9 seconds with Richard Clarkson, and now it has diminished. So I'm not sure if Grant is playing with the advantage or if Richard is starting to be in the move after saving tires for many laps.
Potentially. Well, I've got the live server up here. I mean, right now that with the accordion effect going into just now going into the oh goodness, he's up on the grass there. But the gap dropped down to about 3.5 seconds just in that section, the Tarzan section, as they came to a stop. And it then once you go through the quick sections like we have here, it goes back up to around 6 seconds.
Yeah, it's, I think, because Automobilista shows the real-time difference.
Yes.
Which increases or stretches, and depending on where you are on a corner or not, so not very telling. Probably only in the straight it's actually quite indicating of what you have. I see Ray Riddle is continuing his chase now of another Ferrari. And he's behind, still some way to go, but he's behind Smokey Janak. And I don't think that with these tires, Janak is going to be able to resist for a lot of time.
Oh, we have a car in the pits right now. It appears it's Timo Vermeers making some kind of a pit stop, apparently to fix something with the car. I would guess it's a repair job of some kind because it's clearly too long to change tires. Although, I don't know. I mean, in this mod, you never know. Changing tires, I mean, pit crews in F1 didn't get particularly quick until the mid-70s when Ferrari started bringing over some of their sports car guys to do pit stops. But prior to that, it wasn't really...
Yeah, I think that's because the refueling was so long that they didn't really have a need to be quick with the tires. Which by itself was not a problem of the technique. Oh, Timo, oh no. Timo just came out of the pits and he almost got in the way of Ray Riddle.
Oh, man.
Oof, that was a hairy situation because both were clearly seeing what was happening.
Oh my goodness, he's off the track now.
Yeah.
The heck's going on here? Yeah, okay, here he is exiting the pits. This is a replay.
So I believe maybe it's that Timo has some kind of damage and the car is not well. He's going very slow now. I think the car is damaged. He was trying to return the pits.
Even with the Ray Riddle had to take really. I mean, we're not getting the full picture here because of ping, but it's pretty clear that Ray had to take evasive action to avoid him. So the question then becomes, where is Ray? Ray right now is, let's see, where is he at?
Oh, Brian Janik is coming. Yeah, Timo is going very, very slow.
Brian gets by.
It's obvious that the car is damaged.
Well,
That is what he was doing in the pits in the previous lap.
It appears Ray's car is not damaged.
He's now in the way of other cars that are coming. It's not a good situation.
Well, in the meantime, we got a battle brewing here, but
should be going back into the pits.
We got a great battle though brewing here between David Yunt and David Saber, who you mentioned before, not having a lot of TV time in this race. They're not, up in the standings, and they're running 11th and 12th respectively. But this is an excellent battle, one of the best on the track right now, I would think.
The Grant Riddle the leader is now coming to lap car number 33.
Well, oh, here comes David Yunt to go by. He clearly has a head of steam, but of course David also has those 12 cylinders, and he's trying to counterattack, but he cannot. Runs wide, and David Yunt gets the position back. Was Grant able to get by Timo without any problem? Or has he not gotten there yet? Oh, well, it appears now, now Coxon is having to deal with Timo, and he's through. So the next target to get by Timo would be Yves Placé, who actually just lapped his teammate, David Saber. God, David Yunt, once he got by David Saber, just dispensed with him quickly. He's like pulling away. So clearly, his car is in excellent trim at the moment. So here's Placé overtaking Yunt on the long straight. Third place. Timo is back in the pits again.
He has been called by race control to repair the car or quit the race because it was clearly unsafe in this situation. Not just because of being slow, but because he was clearly not completely under control. I mean, he was weaving over the track, and if you can put the car where you want, then it's a dangerous situation when other cars are coming by.
Okay, the gap between Grant and Richard is kind of seesawing between 5.5 and 4.5 seconds. So it does appear that Richard is closing in a bit, but for all we know, Grant could just be taking it easy, trying to save the car and just save himself a little bit of grief. There you can see the visual gap right there.
Meanwhile, Ray Riddle hasn't been able to dispose of Michel Janak. It's interesting because he was getting close quickly, but now the gap seems to have stabilized and Ray isn't able to get closer.
Well, Yannick is still locking up like crazy every turn, so I don't know. I mean, it may just be that Ray is taking a slight break, but I would not be surprised if he closes up to Yannick again in a matter of a few laps. My guess is that he's just taking a bit of a breather because Yannick's car clearly under braking is not ideal right now. Square tires. So I mentioned this earlier, I believe it was just via pictures because we had music going on, but just mentioning what we have coming up soon at HSO, and I'm sure it's no surprise to anybody. You'd have to be living under a rock to not know. But coming up next Sunday, the Indianapolis 500 Time Trials 1974. Coverage begins at 2000 hours CET. We'll set our 33-car grid. And then the following Sunday, the Indianapolis 500-mile race itself. Something we're all looking very much forward to. people have been putting in a lot of practice on the server so far, and thanks to Alberto's expert physics, the cars are much closer together than they were in 73. And that's both historically accurate and it's going to make for excellent racing, I think, as well.
Well, I hope so.
And then following the 500, the week after that, we're going to have an open race using the mod you're watching right now, the F171 mod. We'll have the Jochen Rindt Memorial Race at Hockenheim. And that will not count in the F1 Championship. That will just count in the Gold Star Championship. So that's a look at what's coming up in HSO in the next few weeks.
That's a good opportunity for those who don't have a permanent right here to be able to get a car, maybe any car, because it will be first come, first serve.
Exactly.
As an open, and have some fun riding around with these cars. It's going to be what the track you mentioned. It's open at Hockenheim. Okay, that was back then a very, very fast. Well, it's always been, but very fast and very dangerous track. Remember, that's the place where no other than Jim Clark lost his life in a Formula 3 race. Oh, Brian Janik just understeered out of the corner. Now he's back on track. That's when trying to let Grant Riddle by.
Well, he seems okay now. Let's have a quick look at a replay of what happened here. Yeah, Grant Riddle coming up behind him.
Now, Grant Riddle is close to Michel Janak.
Oh goodness, he did! He almost hit that Mercedes-Benz sign and the Caltech sign, but he's okay now. He's back on track. Thankfully, with no extra damage than what he already has. So good performance by Thiago as a one-off here, running in 8th place. I mean, there's still 15 or so laps to go. If there's any more attrition, he could see himself scoring a point, maybe.
That's right.
But now Ray is actually starting to close up on Michael Yannick again. So he might have a chance here to advance into the points. We'll see. More smoke screens.
Yep. That instead of a Ferrari seems to be a German Tiger tank.
Yeah.
Or a World War II destroyer.
He's keeping good pace with him here, but he's going to have to get closer if he wants to try to overtake on the straight.
Must be desperate for Ray Riddle, watching the car in front having so many problems and yet not being able to get
Well,
by.
here he's got a good chance. I mean, he's in the slipstream now.
Yeah,
but I
this
think
is where actually the tires are not important at all. I mean, in the braking, yes, but you have to be alongside him, and that's not the case here.
I think that he might be running more upright wings than
there. Janak can't brake as well as Ray Riddle. He's certainly locking wheels, smoking, and all you want, but since Ray isn't able to be side by side with him, that he isn't able to capitalize on that.
Oh man, yeah, I mean,
maddening.
This is got to be very frustrating for Ray, especially, and you add to the fact that he's just one position out of the points.
Yes, and for Ray this is terrible because he knows that if he gets alongside Michel Janak, he will be for sure able to brake later. That's for sure. I mean, you can see that, but if he isn't alongside him, that doesn't help him anymore. It's really frustrating.
He's going to have to watch it there. He keeps clipping those curbs. If he catches one of those wrong, it could be sayonara for that BRM.
Oh!
All right, I think that was ping, but
yeah, maybe. But if they get into the grass, that's what you were saying. I mean, if they get into the grass like that, they're certainly going to slide into oblivion. There, not a smoke screen. which isn't helping right in the corner entry probably.
Oh no, Yves Blase is out of the race!
Oh no!
No!
How did that happen? Let's see. Engine! Oh my god!
Oh,
Engine again!
engine again!
I can't believe that.
Yep. Engine
We're looking at yet another Matra barbecue. This is really, really sorry.
Why
Sad-
can you
sad
not
for-
make it to
for
the
poor
end of the
Yves.
race? Oh no. Matra barbecue. That's too bad.
So this puts Peter Lavak in the podium.
It does, yes.
Right, Riddle now has points, but that doesn't mean he's going to let Michal Jana get away with the 5th position. That's
No.
a top 5 now in the cards now.
So we now have Grant Riddle in first still. Let me get out of the replay so we got the best ping possible. Coxon is in second place. Peter Hlavik is in third. Pascal Mikkel fourth. And then we have, Yannick in fifth. And, yes, Ray Riddle definitely now attacking him in fifth place. Ray Riddle being in sixth. Seventh now is Thiago Canola. So now he might even have a chance here. We were just talking about that. More attrition could equal points for him. I don't like how when we mention things,
away from that.
it comes to,
Look at
yeah.
right. Yeah,
What's
he got
going
him
on?
at the
Yannick
turn
let him
exit.
by.
Maybe he missed a shift.
Could have missed a shift. Let's do a replay here and listen very carefully and see if we can. This is a replay of Yannick going into the. So now we're going to listen carefully here. No, he didn't miss a shift there. It looks like he just accelerated a little slower. Maybe he was just tired of being hounded by Ray Riddle.
That would amaze me a lot. To see him giving out the position like that.
Well, now he's coming back at him. He's coming down the inside here trying to get a position. Ray moves over a little bit as to say, no, you don't. And now Ray's the one who's locking up the tires. So he's giving smoke back to Yannick after all that smoke screen he was getting. Has there been any more forum reaction?
Nope, not yet.
No, I'm really curious to know what happened to Richard Wilkes. I'm sure that he's in no mood to explain it, but still.
Yeah, I tried to contact him on the TeamSpeak chat before, but he wasn't available there, so I guess he's still fuming.
Now, whatever it was, I'm sure he's not happy about it. The gap between first and second is still around 6 seconds or so, so it's not getting any bigger or smaller.
Sorry, it's 4.5 in my screen. Maybe it's lag?
It could be, but it's not. Basically, the point I was making is it's not really getting bigger or smaller by any real. It's not really. Not much is happening there.
So now Yves Blase has reacted. He said podium on site and pending 15 laps. The engine as usual. Not really happy. Poor guy. I mean, he's one of our best drivers and he's on a car that I believe he likes a lot, but this is really, really sad for him.
Well, I mean, at this point, you have to say to yourself, okay, I've got to find a way to get this engine home. If not, maybe I need to look for another drive because you can't just run all year with, I mean, it reminds me of, there were cars that I thought I was always rooting for in IndyCar racing that I wanted to do well. One that I can think of is Danny Sullivan, who was driving for Pat Patrick in the Alfa Romeo powered Lola because it was an oddity. And that engine just gave them all manner of problems. And it was a situation where he's a fast driver. It's a good team. But the engine just keeps letting them down. again
What's
and again.
up?
Oh!
David Saber and David
Mikola just ran onto the grass briefly here. It looks like he might have had a slight lapse in concentration.
Maybe it happened between David Junt and David Saber. They had an incident because I've seen them both at slow speed. I'm watching the replay now. Junt was catching up with David Saber.
Hard to tell at this point, but
well, they're fighting for position.
They are definitely fighting for position, and Junt is 10th now. Saber is 9th. And we have 10 laps to go now in the race.
Janak now chasing Ray Riddle and David Junt chasing David Saber. The two fights to watch now on track.
Yeah, Yannick trying to hang with Ray Riddle, but at this point I think Ray has got the better equipment underneath him. I would guess he's taking better care of his car or his tires to this point. And Mikola comes through the start-finish line now without getting onto the grass this time, so apparently it was just a momentary lapse, I think.
And it's funny to see Yves' engine blowing up, and yet David Saber with the same engine is still there. Let's see if he makes it to the end. Oh, Jonathan has spun.
Uh-oh.
Now on the side of the track.
Well, he's back going again now. Here's a replay.
I think this is already concentration taking its toll.
Yep, there he goes. Spins it around. But doesn't hit anything. Keeps it going straight. Nice job. Doesn't lose his cool. Well, he's 11th right now.
So Junt is now much closer to David Saber.
Yeah, he's closing in with that. He's got that.
It's locking wheels also. It's the same situation we saw with Michal Janak before. He might have octagonal tires by now, and is suffering a lot. David Junt, we all know, is a driver that is very good at endurance racing, and he knows how to take care of the machinery and how to bring it home, especially taking care of the tires. So it's no wonder that he has now tires that are in much better shape. Only he's going to suffer here a lot, because this is the overtaking spot as we have seen over the race, and his V8 is no match for the powerful Matra here. There you go, smoke screening in from David Saber. And David Junt trying to get close here in this twisty section, where his lighter car should probably be.
You would think that he would have a faster time through here. But you're right.
You can't forget that this is actually one of the old Model March.
Yes, it's a
This
701.
is
Oh! David just had a real moment there.
Oh, and David Junt wasn't able to capitalize.
He wasn't able to capitalize, but it does point to David having some problems. I mean, it's got to be really frustrating from Junt's point of view, because he uses the backside of the course. He can get up right behind David Saber, and then Saber just opens up the car in the straight and nullifies all the work that he's done on the backside. So that's frustrating from a driver's point of view. But if David has any more, if Saber has any more moments like that one, Junt might be able to get by.
Yeah, but you have to suspect that even if David Junt gets by, if they get close enough to this straight with David Saber behind, then it's very likely that he's going to pass David Junt as if he was standing still.
There's David.
Because there is a big difference in power here.
David Saber trying to throw David Junt out of the slipstream there. That's kind of an oval technique, not really, not really a technique that would work here.
Both training for Indianapolis.
Maybe he's training for Indianapolis. Yes. He's going to need all the slipstream he can get with that Riley.
Oh yes. Well, actually, the engine is okay, but it's simply a car that doesn't have enough downforce.
Yeah. So we're coming up now to 7 laps to go in the race. Won't be much longer. So the difference this time, as opposed to the Monaco race, is Grant and David has a very lurid moment of oversteer. David Yunt, I mean, going through the tunnel Oost, but yeah, that's going to cost him a bit on the straight for sure. If it's a Surtees 1-2, that still would keep Coxon in reasonable striking distance of Grant. So it's not quite the walkover that you would think it would be, but we're getting close to the middle of the season now, and because it's an 11-race calendar, and if Richard wants to mount a championship challenge, he's going to have to find an answer for all the speed that Grant has.
Yeah, that won't be easy, and the fact that Richard had to miss the Monaco race won't help him a bit.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Richard was suffering from internet issues where he was, and it took his internet service provider what seemed like an eternity to get everything back up and running, and as a result...
Oh, Jonathan has quit. Jonathan has playing this in the pits. Yeah, he's quit. So with 4 laps to go, that's 10 cars now on track.
Well, actually, I'm showing...
Accident shows it for Jonathan. No, it's unfortunate.
Oh, yes, yeah, we are. We're down to 4 laps to go, you're right. I missed that because I was watching somebody else's... the lap count that you see in the top corner of the screen is for... I'm sorry, it's for the car that you are watching only. It's not the race. Ah, yes.
User was moved to your channel.
As we are joined now by Intersection Diaries author Timo Vermeersch. Timo, not a pleasant end of the race for you. Looks like you were fighting some problems in the car. Is it windy where you are?
The windy hills of Sandworth.
Yeah, it sounds like it. I'm going to ask him for a loop of that I can play when I'm sleeping.
It sounds quite relaxing.
Yeah, it did actually. ASMR. White noise to put in the background.
Maybe David Sauber should get a bit of that because David Junt is putting some pressure on him. He will be getting anxious. Oh man, that Matra is moving like mad. It's like a rodeo cow. When coming out of the corners.
Oh yeah, Yunt is definitely getting close. And clearly has a better handling car into these conditions. No question. So it's just simply a matter of when is he going to be able to strike. Oh man, David, God, he's climbing all over the back.
User joined your channel.
David had an issue there with, I think he hit one of the curbs and it upset the car and he lost a lot of momentum. Now he's right with him again, but of course this is not the place to really slipstream people.
My goodness, how is this Matra moving around?
I don't know, but this is a point where I'm sure Yunt is just waiting for the opportunity to slip by. He's waiting for David to have some kind of lurid moment of oversteer, and then he can just slip by. As we are joined in the booth by Jonathan is here, and so is Timo. Timo was treating us to the sounds of the sand dunes. Jonathan, are you there?
Yep.
Well, not the best of races for you, unfortunately. What's your reaction to this Dutch Grand Prix?
Extremely disappointed, both with my own lack of pace or lack of ability to drive the car, and yeah, the fact that I'd made a stupid driving error while I was still catching up to the fight between Saber and Junt.
By the way,
Without
just
really
to
pushing.
point that David Saber, now Junt is overtaking now, just to point out that I was watching David Saber from the cockpit view, and in the straight his wheel was clearly pointing left, so there is some suspension damage in that car, and he's having to fight the wheel to even keep it straight.
We're watching the replay now of Junt overtaking David Saber, and he simply runs wide in the second hairpin, and it looks like, yeah, that's enough for maybe he was let by there, I'm not sure, but in any case, Grant Riddall is now on his final lap of the race. Another dominating performance from Grant. It is really unfortunate that we couldn't see a straight-up fight between him and Wilkes. We saw a little bit of one, but it wasn't going to continue, unfortunately. And that would have made the race a little more interesting, but we did have some interesting stuff go on in the back. So I guess the question now becomes, can Richard Coxon find a way to answer the speed of Grant Riddall for the rest of the season? Because we've got 6 races to go after this one, or 7 actually. More sand dune noises. All right, so here comes Grant out of the final turn on his final lap. He now just has the straightaway to go. The checkered flag in hand. And Grant Riddall wins the Dutch Grand Prix. Richard Coxon is in second. So another Surtees 1-2. Now we're watching Peter Hlavik, who is in third place.
15 seconds away.
User left your
50
channel.
seconds away, sorry.
Yeah.
It's, well,
Great drive from Peter. Took advantage of other people's problems, kept it clean, but still drove very, very fiercely.
and a very military 4th position for Pat Kalmikula with that remaining Lotus.
Mm-hmm. There's the 3rd place for Peter Hlavik. Oh, he kills the engine right when he comes across the... Oh, he's going to do donuts now. That's why. There we go. Meanwhile, here comes Pascal Mikola in to take 4th place. He's going to be met by a wall of smoke when he gets there. And Ray Riddall comes across in 5th place. And I believe 6th, scoring the final point, will be Michael Yannick. He's already in the garage. 7th for Thiago Canola. 8th for Brian Janik, who's already in the garage. 9th for David Junt, who's now just motoring in. 10th for David Saber. 11th, Jonathan Asserclinth, who's since retired. The other DNFs, Yves Placé, Steve Parker, Jari Brupacher, Adam Hackman, Peter Blom, David Jakes, Jakob Fredriksson, Mark Florkin, Philippe Martinelli, and Francois Remen. So
and Timo Vermeers,
Oh, did I omit Vermeers? Yes.
Yeah.
Vermeers was, I believe, 14th or so. So, another F171 race goes into the books, and we're going to proceed now to driver interviews. Those of you who want to be interviewed, proceed to the green room, please.
I have to say goodbye at this point. It was as always a pleasure to be broadcasting with you, but I have to run now.
Thank you
See
very
on
much.
The next one, guys. Thanks again.
Well, thank you for your expert commentary, Alberto. I'll see you on the oval probably during the week.
You bet.
All right.
See you.
Take care.
User disconnected from your channel.
Okay. Looking in the green room.
User was moved to your channel.
Hello, Pascal.
Hello, Jason.
4th place for you after a pretty eventful early portion of the race, but you were able to recover back to a points finish. Looked like it was pretty harem-scarum in the first few laps there.
Yeah, I would just say I have a high steering lock on my car, 28 degrees to be exact, and that steering lock saved my butt every single time I spun. Otherwise, I wouldn't have finished.
Well, we only caught 1 point in the race where you actually lost it, or you had an issue off course, but it appeared that you recovered nicely, and then other people, when they had issues, you were able to come back up the course. So a very good open drive for you. Maybe you'll be able to pick up another drive using these cars when we do the Jochen Rindt Memorial Race. It's not part of the F171 series, but it is coming up after Indianapolis. It'll be another opportunity for you in these cars potentially.
Yeah, maybe. I really don't know. I'm really just glad that I finished. I'm kind of frustrated though that I didn't finish on the podium because that last spin, I don't know if that's the one you caught, but I mean all my spins have basically occurred at the same place, with the same cause. But yeah, in general I think it was pretty good. I was really just kind of frustrated at one point when Brian Janik used my car as a breakpoint.
We did see that. We did catch that for a minute.
I didn't have any damage from that. I just had a little bit of rear wing damage, but nothing particularly, nothing bad. My car was just fine.
Based on what we saw on the broadcast, it appeared that Brian caught the worst of that because he had a dent under his front wing, under the lobster claw, so he did take on damage from that. Let's see.
I don't know. Well, if he did, and then it's just kind of his own fault if he brakes too late. But
yeah.
User was moved to your channel.
I would just say, yeah, I'm pretty proud of my result, and I'm actually looking forward to maybe picking up another one off, maybe the same car if it's not available in the next race. So yeah, it was a great race, and congratulations to Grant for the win.
We're also joined by Michal Janik. Michal, another points
User
finish
disconnected
for you
from your channel.
in another points finish for you in the Ferrari, but it looked as if you were having a lot of trouble under braking in several parts of the course.
Yes, especially and at the hairpin before uphill section, there I was nearly spinning all the time, and T1 was a little better. At the start, I had again problem with shifting because I 4 times pressed clutch and everything, and the gear wasn't here. I lost 5 positions at the start because of it. So I'm a little bit disappointed because at the start, when the tires was in best condition, I was held in train behind. I don't know if it was Pascal or who was on third and fourth place, and then at the middle of the race the tires was at the rear cooked, and especially at the end where the flat spots was here and tires very hot. I was fighting the car a lot.
Well, still, you were able to bring it home in the points. So as the improvements continue to the Ferrari, hopefully we'll see you get closer to the front as the series goes on.
User was moved to your channel.
And we have Peter Hlavik, who finished on the podium today excellent drive, Peter. I think it's fair to say that you took advantage of other people's issues ahead of you. This was, correct me if I'm wrong, this was your first race driving the M19A, right?
Jason, yeah, that's right. The first 3 races I drove the previous evolution of the car. This one, well, quite honestly, I don't feel that much difference because I used exactly the same setup and the car worked. So, even if there are some updates to the car, it's not that obvious for a driver. However, I have to say thank you guys
Hey,
because
wake
this
up.
is exactly what I love. This is what I grew up with as a sim racer. Basically low downforce single seaters. That's exactly my stuff, and I'm really grateful for having this mod here and being a full-time driver. It's awesome.
Well, hopefully the series will continue to be fun for everybody. Definitely, this was a course that demands a lot of mental
Hey, wake
acuity.
up.
But yeah, I think most of the results that we saw of people going off the course later, with the exception of engine failures, it looked as if it was just lack of or lapses of concentration just from mental fatigue. Because this is,
Well, at the beginning, I started from P12 or 13. I'm not sure now. I believe P12, and there were some nice dicing, at the beginning. Actually, not just beginning. I had some nice battles up until the lap 40 or 35. So there were close battles all around. There was some nice passing, nice little fights. So it was not just taking advantage of the drivers who
cool.
had to retire, but there was some really nice battling throughout the race.
Good. Jonathan, did you have any thoughts before we close out the broadcast?
Generally, the racing seemed for those that had battles. I unfortunately didn't have that luxury tonight, but yeah, the racing seemed good. The track was great fun to drive in itself. And as Peter said, the cars are really fun to drive in general, so hopefully everyone who got to run had a good time while doing so, and they want to come back for more next time out.
All right. Well, before we... Sorry, go ahead.
Only what I want to say, the mirrors are totally disappointment for me because the car, when it's 3 car lengths behind, it looks like they are 100 meters far, and where the car is very near, it looks there too, and I can't trust the mirrors at all.
Maybe there's an adjustment you can make in the virtual mirrors that would help in that situation. Something maybe that we can talk about on the forum for sure. Real quickly before we go, I want to we got the trivia answer that we have to get to. Or I'm sorry. Shoot. Well, the people on the broadcast might have seen that briefly. The question was, in 1965, which team principal was arrested because he punched a policeman at Zandvoort? Was it A, Colin Chapman, B, Louis Stanley, or C, Ron Taranak?
Colin Chapman. A.
Stanley, I think.
Stanley? Okay, who else? Anybody else? No?
I have no idea.
Well, the answer was Colin Chapman.
Wow.
There you go. So.
What I want?
Peel and stick tile. All right. Well, so that was round 4. The server has been vacated. And we're going to go now and take care of the results posting. So for Jonathan and Mikael Yannick and Peter Hlavik and Alberto, my broadcast partner, this is Jason White saying so long from Zandvoort.
Bye bye.